morning, or depending when you're watching this, good afternoon, good evening, or good night. My name's Ross, and as always told, out of Voice of Radio. So today, we need to take a look at what the Pokemon TCG is going to look like when Darkness Ablaze comes out. You see, Japan just had a very large tournament, and that tournament included Darkness Ablaze, or what will be in Darkness Ablaze, and it was pre-rotation for us, so there are a few cards they've got that we won't have, but this gives us a really good look at what the format is going to look like when Darkness Ablaze is out, and there's a lot of change going on. There are 3 decks that really do stand above the rest, and we might as well start off with the new stuff, Eternatus VMAX. Now, the thing is, Eternatus VMAX is a very, very, very good deck. There were 3 of them in the top 16 of the tournament in Japan this weekend, and although none of them got beyond top 4, there were still 3 Eternatus VMAX decks that came around in top 16. That is still extremely relevant. Now, it really does all revolve around Eternatus VMAX. Eternatus VMAX for 2 energy does 30 damage for each Darkness Pokemon you have in play, and it has an ability that lets you have up to 8 bench Pokemon as long as you only play Darkness Pokemon. We've now got Crobat V, which will allow you to have a bit of a draw engine. It's literally just Shaman, but you can only use 1 during your turn. So that is going to help you very, very nicely to get set up. And the entire deck really does just revolve around getting Eternatus and smashing. It is an extremely powerful deck. And if you put this side by side with a regular smashy VMAX or tag team deck, this is going to look really good. Something we did not see represented in top 16 was Dragapult VMAX, because things like this will have a very, very good matchup against it. We'll get there in a minute, but we saw one Pikachu and ZEKROM. That does not have a great matchup against Eternatus VMAX, because they can just come along and do 270 really easily. The other new deck which came around, which really is the number 1 deck as far as I'm concerned, was Vikavolt V. And Vikavolt V is just a new Seismitoad, and this is why we probably should have been able to guess that it was going to be quite so gosh darn good. 2 energy, 50 damage, your opponent cannot play item cards from their hand during their next turn. Now, bearing in mind that either Thunder Mountain or Tapu Koko can essentially make it a single energy attack. Thunder Mountain literally makes it a single energy attack. Tapu Koko accelerates an energy, so you then only need to attach 1 more. And if you go second with Vikavolt, there should be, if you build the deck correctly, and I've put a list up on this channel yesterday, do go check it out, I'll link it in the description, there should be a reasonable expectation that you actually get the item lock going, turn 1 going second. There should be a reasonable expectation that you're actually doing that. You go second, and you get that item lock straight away. And there are other things we see in the deck. Raichu and Alolan Raichu generally comes along for a bigger attacker. But really, it is a Vikavolt V deck that is built to block your opponent's item cards and win from there. One of the things that's cool about Vikavolt, if you need a big KO, 2 energy does 50 damage and blocks items, but a 3rd energy does 190, which will get you big KO, especially after a couple of littler attacks. You have to discard 2 energy to do it, but you then go down to 1 energy attached, attach an energy, and then you're good to go. It really is a very, very, very good deck. And maybe this will be proven differently in the future. I'm all up for that happening. But as it stands at the moment, it is clear that the best deck around is Vikavolt. One of the things I find very interesting, there were 2 Vikavolt that made top 16, 1 on either side of the bracket, and they both went through and made the final. Now, weirdly, the most popular deck we saw in top 16 was actually Mill. Mill was played more than anything else. We basically had 5 different decks. We had 5 different Mill decks. And they did take slightly different tacks. I mean, Oranguru was there throughout all of them. We're talking the one with resource management that gets any cards back, and the one from Sword and Shield, which lets you draw cards. A lot of the list actually did play Mareep, That's the one where if it's in the active, you get to put your opponent's active Pokemon to sleep to basically try and make sure that even if they've got a decent answer to you, they're asleep, so it doesn't matter. That was one we saw quite a lot. We saw a lot of Makago GX in these decks, which just mills the top 5 cards of your opponent's deck, obviously being evolved off of a Ditto. Though one deck weirdly did actually play Mewtwo and Mew to copy Makago, which is a little bit strange. You got stuff like Articuno to make sure that if your opponent tries building up energy on one Pokemon, you can just get rid of it. There's all kinds of things like Belelba and Bryson Man to mill your opponent's deck, etc. Mill's been around for a while. Some decks played Chinchino for the extra draw. Some decks played Makago to get any card you want on top of your deck. There were differences about the list. The coolest one, as far as I'm concerned, and this will get its own video if it hasn't already quite soon, but there was a deck that actually played Lance Prism Star and the Dragonite from Team Up that's got the ability to search for a supporter card and put it into your hand to basically make sure they always had the supporter cards they need, which I thought was a very, very cool touch indeed. But make no mistake about it, Mill was there. And one of the things I find extremely interesting, all of the Eternatus decks, all 3 of them, did actually end up getting taken out by Mill decks. Literally all 3 of them that made top 16 got taken out by Mill. I find that rather interesting. We did see 2 BLACEPHALON, 2 baby BLACEPHALON, 2 Blowns, call it what you will, made top 16, and this deck looks a lot like it used to. It really does just revolve around using Welder to attach 2 energy to a BLACEPHALON, adding a 3rd, and then using cards like Fiery Flint and Fire Crystal and all of that good stuff to make sure that you've got lots of energy in your hand so that you can discard them all and KO anything you like. It is a non-GX, non-V single prize Pokemon that aims to win the prize trade. 2 of them made top 16, they're clearly very good, but neither of them made it past top 16. One got taken out by an Eternatus, and one got taken out by a Vikavolt. So a very good deck to be sure, but not one that's, shall we say, setting the world on fire. Forgive the pun. And then we get to the singlets, the decks where one copy ended up making it into top 16, though again none of these did. In fact, 3 of the 4 didn't make it past the first round of top 16, and the other one dropped out in top 8. The one that dropped out in top 8 was ZACIAN, Lucario, and Melmetal. And we all know that at the moment there are different ways to play ZACIAN. I mean, ZACIAN's got that amazing ability that lets you draw 3 cards, but if any of them are metal energy, you can attach them to ZACIAN. It's then got free energy, 230 damage, which is pretty gosh darn good, Metal Saucer to accelerate energy to it, and then a bunch of things like Metal Frying Pan to reduce damage while getting rid of weakness, or Metal Goggles to reduce damage while getting rid of damage counters. Really good against Dragapult, though it seems like Dragapult is not quite so good moving forward. Over in Europe and America at the moment, North America, the general preference for this seems to be playing it with Jirachi Prism Star to steal extra prizes. The only version that made it into top 16 was Lucario and Melmetal. Use a GX attack so that damage done to it is reduced by 30 for the rest of the game. And when combined with stuff like Metal Goggles and things of that nature, it really does build up a very, very difficult to KO Pokemon. A nice deck, and one that did end up making it into top 8. Now, we did see one representative of Pikachu and ZEKROM making it in top 16. Looks the same as it always did. It does add Vikavolt now, 2 energy, 50 damage, block items. Obviously, that's going to help you out in a bunch of games. So, it's pretty much a given as a one-off. A lot of people said that Pikachu and ZEKROM wouldn't be good once the new cards came out. And you do need to bear in mind that Thunder Mountain and Electro Power are still legal over in Japan at the moment. They won't be really when Darkness Ablaze comes out over here. But it is interesting to see that that deck is still going fairly strong. We saw one top 16 finish for Centiskorch VMAX. Now this is the new card. It's a very powerful card. Obviously uses stuff like Welder and all the usual fire stuff. 2 energy, 40 damage, plus 40 for each fire energy attached to it. And if you deal damage, you get to attach a fire energy from your discard pile to it. So between that attack and Welder, you basically build energy up on the card super quickly. And then just do a huge amount of damage. And that's basically it at that stage. A very, very big, powerful deck with huge potential. But we did only see one in top 16 and it did get taken out by Eternatus. And then the final deck that we saw in top 16 was one of the biggest surprises I've seen in a long time. Now I have done a video about this that I've already posted, but it basically was CRYOGONAL DUSTOX. And the general theory here is CRYOGONAL for 1 water energy does 10 damage and item locks your opponent. And that isn't very much damage at all. But the DUSTOX from Lost Thunder, when you evolve into it, you paralyze and poison your opponent. And they take 3 damage counters between turns through poison. So if you can evolve into DUSTOX every turn, yeah, sure, you're only doing 10 damage. But they're taking 30 between turns, 30 after yours, 30 after theirs, 30 after yours, etc. for poison. And they are both paralyzed, they can't retreat, and item locked, they can't switch. You then use Scoop Up Net and Devolution Spray Z to reuse your DUSTOX over and over again. And you do actually play Florges to flip a coin, and then if you get a heads, you get to recover an item card, which is one of the 2 I just mentioned. And when it works, you get to paralyze and poison an item lock every turn. And when it really works, they get KO'd by poison coming into your turn, and then you just start the whole process all over again. It made top 16, and I, for one, am absolutely delighted, because this is a deck I don't think any of us saw coming. Or maybe that's just me. So that is it, ladies and gentlemen. That was the top 16 in Japan this weekend. It was an unofficial national championships. They had over 200 players, which is not the 1,500 they would have had at an actual national championships. But let's bear in mind, ladies and gentlemen, that's still an awful lot of people. There were lots of really, really good players. And it's a gigantic competitive tournament with Darkness Ablaze essentially legal. That makes it very, very interesting for us. But now, ladies and gentlemen, I'd like to hear from you guys. What do you think about all of this? How do you feel about these decks? Do you think there were any that were over or underrepresented, that did too well or not well enough? Let me know in the comment section. Go nuts. Be nice. And then make sure you like this video, subscribe to this channel, follow me on Twitter at TheWassy, and Twitch for some live action at twitch.tv/PTCGRadio. If you want to support the channel, get some bonus podcasts and all that good stuff, head on over to patreon.com/PTCGRadio, where you can do exactly that. But by far the most important thing, as always, look after yourselves till next time, would ya? Thank you very much for watching. My name's Ross, and you've been watching PTCG Radio.